À la claire fontaine m'en allant promener, j'ai trouvé l'eau si belle que je m'y suis baignée. Il y a longtemps que je t'aime, jamais je ne t'oublierai. Sur la plus haute branche, un rossignol chantait. Chante, rossignol, chante, toi qui as le cœur gai. Il y a longtemps que je t'aime, jamais je ne t'oublierai. Hi, welcome to episode 37 of the Gentle Knitter podcast. My name is Nicole and I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Ontario. Today is Wednesday, December 30th. I'm on holidays for Christmas. I was on holidays all of last week and this week, so it's been really, really great to have a break. And even though I work from home, it's just nice to not have to be on the computer all day and answering emails, that kind of thing. Instead, I've been spending a lot of time outside and I took some footage of that. So I'll be sharing a few of my little woodland adventures with you. And of course, I've been doing a ton of knitting, so that's been great. We had a really lovely Christmas. It was very quiet. Over here in Ontario, we are actually on a full lockdown right now. Rates have been going steadily up. And in Ottawa, we are also very close to the Quebec border, and their rates are actually even higher. So we've been on lockdown for the last couple of days, full lockdown, and it's going to be going on till the end of January. So we're spending, it hasn't really changed a lot because it's not like I was going out eating meals in restaurants or shopping in the shopping malls. We have obviously access to food stores and pharmacies, so essential businesses are still open, and we are just staying at home, staying cozy, and just staying safe. And I hope that you are also staying safe and being very careful and taking good care of yourself. It was hard. It was hard to not be able to go visit family and friends, but on Christmas Day, we took full advantage of this new era that we're in, of being able to communicate through these devices. So I actually spent most of the day, Christmas Day, on Zoom or on FaceTime, And it was wonderful to be able to see our loved ones' faces and be able to share a little bit of our Christmas with them. So I have a couple of finished objects to share with you. But first of all, I should update you. Some of you may have seen a post I put up on Instagram probably at the end of November about a sudden wool sensitivity that I developed. And I wasn't sure if it was because of my thyroid problems, which are much better, by the way, or if it was because I'm, approaching the menopausal years, and with hormonal fluctuations, some people develop skin sensitivity. So I wasn't quite sure what was going on, but I all of a sudden couldn't wear any wool near my neck and chest. Any type of non-superwash yarn that had some sort of toothiness to it, I would just break out in a rash and just feel super itchy, and it drove me crazy. And I was heartbroken because I couldn't wear any of my shawls. It was starting to get cold, and I had to wear my puffy jacket inside the house instead of wearing a wool sweater. And I went ahead and ordered a bunch of little cotton scarves that I could wear around my neck so that I could wear a shawl or a sweater. And it has improved greatly since then. I do think now that it was probably related to my thyroid issues. And as I mentioned, this thyroid issue is much improved now because they have, I think, found the right dosage for my medication, and my skin is not as reactive. So first of all, just to be able to wear a wool shawl is such a gift because I was really starting to think I might have to donate my stash and, start knitting with only superwash yarn, and I was pretty sad about it. I know, in the grand scheme of what's going on in the world, it's not a really very serious problem, but when you're somebody like me who really just craves natural wools, it was quite upsetting. But needless to say, it's much better now. I still do get a little sensitive. I find if I get very hot, then my skin seems a little more reactive, but all in all, I have resumed most of my shawl wearing. I still have to wear like a shirt or a t-shirt underneath my Lopi sweaters, but that's fine. I usually would wear something underneath anyways. So all that to say, I am wearing a beautifully woolly shawl. This is the Black River Blanket Shawl by Sam Lam, who's a friend of mine, wonderful designer. I encourage you to check out her Ravelry page. So I knit this out of some very special hand spun that I showed off, I think last time I recorded. The hand spun was sent to me as an incredible gift by Lindsay of Artifacts of Appreciation on Instagram. And she also has a really great YouTube channel called Quarter Past. I really highly recommend you check her out. She's an incredibly talented woman who has such a knack for mixing fibers together. She actually prepares fibers and sells them to spinners, to hand spinners. But she sent me some hand spun yarn that she had made, and I also paired it with the cream is some leftover West Coast fiber yarn, which is appropriate because Lindsay's the one who told me about West Coast fibers. So I thought they would look really nice together in a shawl. And I just wanted something really simple that would show off the beautiful stripes of the hand spun. It's all just muted natural colors, and then with the creamy stripes, I really love how it's turned out. I love the shape of this shawl because it is sort of wider than it is deep, and that is my preference in terms of shaping on a shawl. So I can wear it as a really cozy winter cowl, or the way I was wearing it before as a lovely shawl. So thank you, Lindsay, for gifting me this incredibly beautiful and precious handspun. And thanks, Sam, for designing such a pretty pattern. My next finished object is a Fair Isle hat. It is called Katie's Cap, and it is a design by Wilma Malcolmson. I've talked about Wilma before. She is a very well respected and super talented Shetland designer. I actually got a chance to visit her studio when I went to Shetland many years ago now with Gudrun Johnston and Mary Jane Mucklestone on one of their Shetland tours. And yeah, visiting Wilma Malcolmson's studio was really one of the highlights of the trip. I was so impressed and inspired by this woman who has her own business, and she sells not only knitting patterns but also ready to wear or garments that are ready to be purchased. And the pattern itself is featured in this year's Shetland Wool Week annual. As you probably know, Wool Week was canceled this year, and what a shame, I mean, for many reasons, but one in particular is that Wilma was this year's patron for Wool Week, and I feel so strongly that she was such a deserving patron because she has been such an incredible ambassadress for Shetland knitting. But they put out the annual book anyway, which is great because I absolutely love these magazines. They are really such a great value and always feature so many beautiful patterns. Luckily, you don't need to have this book to knit the hat because every year one of the patterns that is sort of the main pattern for the Shetland Wool Week is a free pattern. So you can go on Ravelry, look for Katie's Cap, Wilma Malcolmson. I will read you a little bit of the description that Wilma has written about her hat. I'll just show you this gorgeous spread here. This is very typical of Shetland landscape, just really rugged and beautiful muted colors, and the ocean, just such a heavenly place. The description reads, Katie's Cap is named after my mother, Katie, who taught me these patterns when I was a peerie lass. Peerie means small in Shetland dialect, because they were her favorites. She belonged to that large group of professional knitters without whom our Shetland colourwork and lace heritage might not have been as alive and vibrant as it is today. This is my tribute to all the known and unknown design artists of Shetland throughout the centuries. So the sentiment behind the hat is so lovely, and the book features different sort of colorways. There's so many beautiful different versions. So I knit mine with just leftovers of Jameson's, Jameson and Smith. There's some Rowan Scottish tweed 4-ply in there. Also, this golden color is a color I've had lots of it in my stash. You've seen other things I've knit with this color because I just have a lot of it. And it's a lovely hat. I love the way it fits. It's kind of got the slightly, not super slouchy, but just the right amount of poof. and nice and warm. Of course, with any color work, you've always got the double layer because you're always carrying 2 colors per row. And yeah, I love knitting Fair Isle, and I absolutely think this top is stunning, just absolutely gorgeous. So all in all, it was a pretty quick knit. I think I knit it in 4 or 5 days, but super happy with it. Little corrugated rib, which is very typical of Shetland designs, and yeah, very happy with it. Some of the other designs in this book that I really love, one of them is designed by Donna Smith, and it's called the Peary Leaves Jumper, and like I said, Peary means small. And let's see if I can find a better photo of it. There's somebody sitting in front of a beautiful doorway. There's a dark version that I think is really beautiful. I have some loft in my stash in the darkest charcoal color, and I bet you that would make a really beautiful pullover. Very tempting. And I love Donna Smith designs. Last episode I showed you a hat that I had knit from her. Also some gorgeous work by Ella Gordon, and she is a wonderful designer. I had the chance to meet Ella when I was in Shetland, and she was just a delight to speak to. There's just a lot of really lovely patterns. This little cardigan by Rachel Hunter is super cute. I could see myself making one of those, perhaps in like a charcoal gray with maybe some golden colors in there, some orange. It's very pretty. A lacy beret by Angela Irvine called Ska Beret. Oh, I love Shetland. I am really dying to go back. Hopefully one day I will get a chance to. So some sweet arm and leg warmers by Elizabeth Johnson. I took a class with her when I was in Shetland. Oh, these ones. These are gorgeous. The Store Bus socks by Alison Rendell. Those are very pretty. And this, to me, this design is very kind of Scandinavian. The colors are gorgeous. The socks hanging off the aga. Oh, so cozy. Anyway, I really recommend this book if you can get your hands on it. It's definitely worth a gander. I have one other finished, 98% finished object. However, I will have to maybe do a little modification. But I knit both of my Into the Woods socks, and this is a really pretty pattern by Melody Hoffman, Bee Mandarines, and it was knit in some Mondim yarn that was dyed by La Bien-Aimée, I think in the quail colorway. And so this was my first sock. It fits beautifully. I love the way it looks. However, my second sock, first of all, the yarn is very different. So it's one ball of yarn, but the center of the ball was way more patterned, or more speckled, I should say, than the first one. And if I'm honest, this is more my jam than this. Although I really, that's fine. I can totally live with that. I would still wear them happily. However, I'm not quite sure if I was super stressed when I was knitting the second one or what, but the first one is significantly bigger than the second one. The second one, I know I've knit exactly the same because it's a pattern. So I know I have the same amount of rows. I have the same number of designs. You know, I kind of double checked everything. It's all there, but my gauge is so much tighter on these than on these. So I'm not quite sure what to do. I do have some yarn left. This is why I have not Kitchenered the toe yet. I do have some yarn left, so I think what I'll end up doing is just kind of rip back the toe and knit more of the foot and then do the toe. And you know, the designs won't line up in the sense that there will be a bigger space on the second one. You know, here there will be more plain stockinette and then the toe, but that really is not a big deal. I think, you know, nobody would really notice that. But yeah, these were not the most successful socks. I'm really sad to say, because like I said, I really do love the pattern. I think it is so sweet. And in this version of the yarn, I really, really love it. I just think it's super subtle. The way the yarn is marled is really pretty. But you can even see that, you know, sort of as the further I went into the skein, the more color started showing up. And, you know, this one is significantly more modeled than this one. Oh well, it's okay. Like I said, I will probably just rip back, knit more foot, and call it a day. And I will definitely knit these again because I think that the design is so beautiful. I followed the pattern exactly as written, and actually Melody has designed a pullover with this motif on the yoke, and the trees are actually worked in a different color, and it's a really gorgeous sweater. I'm thinking I might want to knit myself one of those. So like I said, 98% done, semi-successful. I would say 50% successful. One of the socks is perfect, the other one not so much, but that's okay. I have a couple of other socks on the needles. One of them, I actually finished one sock, and I will tell you all about this yarn. It's some new yarn that I was sent to try. The yarn is from the Fibre Co, and the yarn is called Amble, and it is a yarn that is composed of washable merino wool, alpaca, and recycled nylon. So the washable merino was processed in a different way than it is with, it wasn't processed with chlorine. I'm not exactly sure what their superwashing process is for this yarn, but it, like I said, it's a blend of merino, alpaca, and recycled nylon. And the yarn itself is very beautiful. This color is called Fair Hill, and it is a kind of a mottled blue and brown with kind of a little bit of wine. It's really, really gorgeous. It reminds me, the color itself reminds me a little bit of some Alice Starmore yarn that I had, that I knit my, what's that cardigan called by Orlan Souche? Oh darn, the Ailbíona cardigan. So it reminds me a little bit of that. That colorway was called Pebble Beach. But this yarn is incredibly soft. It's but it feels woolly. It doesn't feel at all like superwash yarn. And the pattern is a pattern that was sent to me also by the Fibre Company. I think it's called something like Basic Sock. I will put the name of the pattern on the screen there. But I I like the way it fits. It's got a really long cuff, which I don't usually do, but I actually really like that. And it's got a rounded toe. I usually knit a rounded toe, but the way I do it is a little bit different. And I do like the way this one turned out. It's kind of like a hat top. It's a little bit hard to see. But yeah, the yarn is a pleasure to work with. It is a little bit thicker. It feels like a heavy fingering or sport weight. And I really recommend it. I can't speak to how durable the sock is going to be, but it's definitely going to be very cozy. I'm knitting another pair of socks, and this is part of a make-along that my friend Sarah Hunt is hosting, and it's called the Lost Words Make-Along, and it's kind of revolving around this work called The Lost Words. It's a book by Robert MacFarlane and Jackie Morris. Robert is the writer and Jackie is the artist. And Robert MacFarlane is a nature writer. He writes a lot about landscapes, and he is a writer I really enjoy. I highly recommend his books. This book is a slightly different work for him. It is based on some words that were actually omitted from the last edition of the Children's Oxford Dictionary. And they basically took out about 40 words that were related to nature and replaced them with words like attachment, blog, broadband, bullet point, cut and paste, and voicemail. So, I mean, that is something that happens with dictionaries. Certain words get omitted and new words are brought in. But I guess MacFarlane found the idea that these words were kind of being taken out of a child's world quite sad, and so did this book in honor of those words. So words like acorn, adder, bluebell, dandelion, fern, heron, kingfisher, newt, otter, and willow. And so what they have done is they've created this incredible book that is part illustration, part poetry, and here, I'll show you a couple of examples. I really recommend this book. It's absolutely gorgeous. So there are several large 2-page spread illustrations. This one with some brambles being the words, and some wrens, I believe. Here we've got spread on dandelion. I mean, is there anything more essential to a child's childhood than dandelions, than making a wish on a dandelion seed head? This one is fern, and that is actually the word that I have chosen. So Sarah is inviting participants to make something that is related to the words that are in this book. So what I decided to do is pick one of the words and knit a pattern that evokes that. So I chose fern, and I will read the very short and charming poem that is about ferns. Fern's first form is furled, each frond fast as a fiddlehead. Reach, roll, and unfold follows. Fern flares. Now Fern is fully fanned. So it's a lovely book to spend time in. I absolutely adore these illustrations. This is my favorite fern. It's called the maidenhair fern. I've always absolutely loved that fern, and whenever I meet her in the forest, I always say hello. I was actually hoping to choose a different word. I wanted to pick raven because I've always loved ravens, and recently we have had a resident raven in our neighborhood, and this is a new thing. I don't remember seeing a lot of ravens in the city before, but in the last couple of years I have heard them, and there is one raven who just really enjoys hanging out at the top of some condos that are just at the end of our street. And so I just feel really quite affection for ravens. I love hearing them. They sound very different from crows. They just have that low rattle sound. I mean, they have lots of different sounds, but the one I hear mostly is that really evocative rattle. And so I had some yarn that to me has always, it just has a color that reminds me of ravens. It's a dark blackish blue yarn. It was a sock yarn, and I'd found a pattern on Ravelry. I think it was called something like Raven's Wing. It was a really lovely sock pattern by Sylvia Harding, but unfortunately the pattern is not available to purchase. It was part of a sock club. So I had to find something else. So like I said, I really love ferns, and I say hello to them when I go to the woods. So I picked fern, and I found a beautiful sock pattern, and it's called Walking in the Ferns. And I will put the designer's name here because I've forgotten, but it's got this lovely leafy pattern. The yarn I'm using is some very special yarn that I've had in my stash for a really long time. It's a Gregoria Fibers, which is, she is a natural dyer, and the yarn is a non-superwash yarn, and it's really very beautiful. It's got a gorgeous halo, and the color I think was called Sage. But I just thought this very tender green was really pretty for these fern socks, and I feel like it's sort of a little bit of a, you know, looking forward to spring type of color. Time for a tea break. I'm drinking some pine needle tea. I think I will insert some video of me making this tea. I actually forged the needles a little while ago on a walk, and made some lovely tea from it. It is really surprising how I find pine tea to be very almost citrusy in flavor and a tiny bit sweet. It's really, really lovely. It's high in vitamin C, which is a very good thing at this time of year, of course. And I just really, it's got a lovely aroma, and I just love bringing a little bit of the forest back with me and make something nice and comforting. The next project I wanted to talk to you about in my beautiful beaucoup bag is a pair of mittens. I just started the first one, and this is the Shine Mittens by Sofia Kammeborn of the Kammebornia podcast. I've had these in my queue for quite a while. I absolutely love this pattern. And I was wearing some of my other mittens the other day that are knit in Letlopi, and they're knit at a fairly loose gauge, and so the wind was just going through them, and I thought, I need to make myself some really lovely color work mittens, because as I was mentioning earlier, you know, you get the double fabric when you're stranding two yarns together. So these are just they're just flying off the needles. They're really, really pleasant to knit, not hard. And you've got sort of just a little flecky pattern in the palm, and then a lovely little design feature on the thumb, and some Latvian braid, which if you've never done Latvian braid, really easy to do and just so pretty. So I'm really enjoying making these. The yarn I'm using, sadly, I have lost the tag for. It's yarn that I bought at Rhinebeck 2 years ago, and it was from a small farm. I really regret not having the tag, because I would love to tell you who made this really pretty yarn, but if I do find the tag, I will let you know. I will update you. But just using, you know, this really lovely yellow and cream, and yeah, really looking forward to finishing these. I very much recommend the pattern. Sofia's a really beautiful pattern designer, and she's come out with some new mittens. The shine ones she came out with several years ago, but the new mittens are called the Litka mittens, I believe, and which means lantern in Swedish, and those are really pretty too. So maybe I will cast on for those when I finish my shine mittens. So when I was having some sensitivity issues, I went into my stash and pulled out all of the yarn that I own that didn't make me itchy. And so I had some cashmere and some superwash yarns that I pulled out. And I also had some really, really special yarn. That is this Bleu Poussière yarn. Bleu Poussière is the name of the company. The dyer is Shani, and she naturally dyes all of her yarns on some really incredible bases. This base is called the Noble base. It's 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere. So you can just imagine how divine this is. It's got a gorgeous luster from the silk, and some halo from the cashmere and the alpaca. Super, super soft, and it's dyed with madder. And I decided to knit a lacy pullover, which is a little bit of a departure, but because this yarn is going to be very drapey because it's alpaca and silk, I wanted something really light and feminine. And so I found a beautiful pattern by Ailbíona McLochlainn called, I think it's pronounced Scéal Gra, and it means a love story, I believe. And the top of the yoke is all lace. And it's a little hard for me to show you because it's on some fairly small needles, but hopefully you can see that there. It's got a very beautiful lace pattern where you're kind of gathering a bunch of stitches together. It is a bit of a pain to knit, I won't lie, but the results are just so pretty, and the fabric I'm getting will be absolutely wonderful to wear. And I love how just gently sort of tonal the yarn is. I am alternating 2 skeins just to make sure that that I don't get any pooling, but This has been a joy. I'm now on the plain part of the body, so it's all smooth sailing from here. But yeah, I've been really enjoying that project. And last but certainly not least, I've made quite a dent in my Yell cardigan. I had actually put it aside when I developed this yarn sensitivity. Like I said, I mentioned I was a little bit upset about it, and upset that I thought maybe I would never be able to wear, you know, woolly wools again. So I didn't work on this for a couple of months, but once I started feeling like I could wear wool again, I picked my this project back up. And just to remind you, I'm knitting this beautiful cardigan by Marie Wallin. So it's another color work. I have a lot of color work today, and I have basically finished the body and started one of the sleeves. So this cardigan is knit in the round, and then you cut it open to you knit in a steek. So you add extra stitches to the front, and also you add extra stitches on either side where the sleeves are going to be. And then when you're ready to start putting the sleeves in and the band around the neck, you cut it open. And for those of you who worry about steeking and worry that you're gonna, you know, your stitches are just gonna go all over the place, I cut this a couple of days ago, and I've been working on it since then on the sleeve, and my steek is not going anywhere. Now, I will mention to you that the pattern only calls for 5 steek stitches, which means that when you cut, you really only have 2 stitches on either side, 2 rows of stitches for the steek. And that is just not comfortable for me. So I actually have 9 stitches for my steek. So the middle row, you know, gets cut in half, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So the last row here that is gray is part of the steek. And when I pick up the stitches for my band, my front band, I will pick up in that gray row, and then the inside will just be folded over neatly, just hand stitched down, and then I will probably add a ribbon. That's just something I like to do. It's not necessary, but I did not do any securing of the steek. I'm leaving it raw. This is how they do it in Shetland. And if you're using sticky yarn like this yarn is, it is Shetland yarn, then it's not going anywhere. I would really have to like pull on it and really work it to get it to fray. And even then, because knitting fabric does not want to unravel sideways, it only unravels like, you know, when you get a run in your stocking and the stitch runs down, that is how knitting will unravel. It doesn't like to unravel horizontally. So yeah, I just wanted to show this to you because I know a lot of people, whenever I show a steek garment, a lot of people comment that steeking really freaks them out and they're scared of doing it. You know, it is a very secure way of doing it if you use the right yarn. So I highly recommend any type of rustic woolen spun yarn will do really well with a steek. So as I said, I picked up the stitches along the opening, the arm opening, and now I'm working on the arms. And I am so happy with this. I really love the way it's looking. As I mentioned in previous episodes, the color work part is very muted, which is quite different from the colorway in the pattern, which got a lot more sort of warmer tones, and I really do love this version, but I wanted something that was sort of faded and beachy, and I'm super happy with how this has turned out. So hopefully by the next episode I will be done this beautiful Yell cardigan, and I tried it on. It fits really lovely. I was a little worried about the shoulder seams. The patterns don't match up, and they're not written to be matched up. I ended up mattress stitching this, and I was a little bit afraid of it looking messy, but I gave it a quick steam and I think it looks fine. The shoulder seam actually ends up sitting slightly on the back of your shoulders, and so it's not in a super kind of visible place. And I think once it's been blocked and all the yarns have kind of melted together, it will look fine. So yay, Yell. Yell is on his way. And I can't resist but show you again my absolutely gorgeous project bag that I got from Pagoldh Knits on Instagram. She is actually, I think starting January 1st, will be taking custom orders, or I think what she will be doing is not so much custom orders, but you will be able to place an order for one of her bag designs. So she won't be doing custom designs, but will be offering her bags on a on-demand basis, if you will. So highly recommend her work. She is a really gorgeous maker, and it's really beautiful quality. I think that is it for me today. I had a couple more things. Maybe I will just quickly mention something else that's kind of on my radar. I will talk more about in another episode. One is a book, a knitting pattern book that I got after seeing one of these garments on Instagram, and then I've recently seen Caroline of the who does the Nutiden yarn has knit the design that actually caught my eye, and now I need to knit it in Nutiden yarn. The pattern is called the Flora cardigan. It's this cardigan here. I'll see if I can show you a full picture. This very sweet cardigan reminds me a little bit of the Birkin sweater, and also the Branches and Buds. It's got a very similar pattern to it. The designer of this book is Erika Aberg, and it is in Swedish. It's all in Swedish. It's not available in English, so I have started typing in the text for that pattern and plugging it into Google Translate, which yields some interesting results. I will definitely say that if you try this at home, make sure you put the accents in, because otherwise you will not get the right words. I guess there are a lot of words that mean one thing if there are accents, and something else if the accents aren't there. So, but this is a really beautiful book. If you speak Swedish, or if you are crazy like I am, I really love this book. It's got the most charming end papers of her watercolors. I just absolutely love that. Here are the end papers to the end of the book. So she lives in Gotland, and so a lot of her designs are they seem color-wise inspired by the ocean. Let me see if I can find a couple of I mean, I love every pattern, but you can definitely tell that she lives in a beachy place just from the colors that she's chosen and the way that things are styled in her book. There's also a slightly vintage feel to a lot of her patterns, which I really like. And of course, very, very Nordic. This is super pretty too. So yeah, I do recommend this book, but like I said, not in English. And speaking of Nordic knitting, I found this book used and I really love it. It's a publication, it was put out by Interweave Press. It's by Suzanne Pagoldh, not sure how to say that. But it is all different Nordic knitting traditions. And I have had my eye on a pattern that is in this book. I think I saw it on Pinterest one day and just became obsessed, as I do. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, here it is. It's a traditional Shetland cardigan. I don't know, I think that refers to the style, but I really love this boys cardigan. And so the pattern is written in the book, but it is a child's size pattern. So what I've done is I've actually found another pattern by Skeindeer Knits. And I'll put a picture up here of that cardigan. It's very, very similar in construction. It just has a slightly different patterning motif. So hers has a larger kind of very swirly motif. It's really, really pretty, but I really like this ultra traditional, very graphic style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take her pattern and just use the chart from this book. And I've got some really great yarn for it. It is one of my favorites of all time, Briggs and Little Regal. So it's a lovely, very rustic, 100% pure wool, 2-ply yarn, very, very affordable, and just very workhorse. It lasts forever, wears like iron. So I will be making myself a very traditional Scandinavian cardigan with this. I did a little bit of swatching. I was hoping, because this yarn is much thicker than the yarn called in the book, I actually started knitting the sweater as written in here, but with this thicker yarn, hoping that it would fit me, but it's still too small. So yeah, so I'll be doing some Franken maneuvering to get that get the result I'm hoping for. So hopefully I'll have that to show you next time. So that is it for me today. I hope that if you celebrated Christmas, that you had a good one, and I certainly wish you all the best 2021. Let's keep all of our fingers and toes crossed that we can all get the vaccine very soon and get back to being able to spend some time together. One of my biggest wishes for 2021 is that I get to go to Rhinebeck so I can see so many of you in person and get real hugs. That would be absolutely amazing. But that is, that is kind of a far off wish, and if it happens, wonderful. If not, it'll be for another year. But in the meantime, please stay safe and take good care of yourselves and each other. And we'll talk to you soon. Happy knitting. Bye. the Dewberry Trail here in Ottawa, and it's very, very quiet and peaceful. And I'm just really taking advantage of the fact that we have snow right now, because they are calling for warmer temperatures and rain in a couple of days. So I just wanted to make sure I would take advantage of this time to just soak in the beautiful, peaceful winter scene.